Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, Helvetia Bushcraft. And on this very gray day, anyway, I'm always being a weatherman here. I don't have the body for it, but hey, you never know. Anyway, we're going to talk about a subject today which is very important. It should be very important for everybody who goes camping and goes into the outdoors, or basically anywhere. You can even practice in your house, sort of, or in your own yard. But anyway, and that is leave no trace. Leave No Trace is something that's been around for a while. They have a beautiful website. You should go visit it. leavenotrace.com, I believe it is. Let's see. It's actually, no, it's, here it is right here. I'll put it here on the video. It's lnt.org, okay? And they even have a 1-800 number on there. These are little cards that we got through scouting, okay? And what I used to do is make sure that every one of my scouts had one of these, and it was attached to their backpack on the inside, so that they didn't lose it, and so that they always had the principles of leave no trace on them. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to run through them real quick, okay? What leave no trace is, and then we're going to discuss. And here it's pretty simple, okay? It's basically, going into the outdoors or going into a place, and when you leave it in better shape than what it was when you got there, and so that the next person who visits can also profit, can enjoy that space also, which is very important. So the first principle for leave no trace is plan ahead and prepare. And we're know the regulations and the special concerns for the area you visit. Okay, so get out there, go online, find out. Maybe there's there's a shortage of water, but maybe there's a fire ban. You can't make a fire, so you have to find a different way of cooking this kind of stuff. So maybe there's a part of the area you're not allowed to hike through because there'll be avalanche, or it can be just heavy rains in that area have damaged the trails, just kind of like that. Or maybe it's because you can't really camp out there because there's some kind of species of animal that's endangered, that's in the area, and we don't want to disturb them. So prepare for extreme weather, hazards, and emergencies. There you go. Bring what you need to have with you for anything and everything that could possibly happen. Okay. Schedule your trip to avoid times of high use. This is a big thing. For me, that's why I camp primarily in the winter time, because a lot less people out there. Sure, it's going to be colder, it might be wetter, it might be some snow, but you know what? I have a much better time out there. I just carry more. I follow the one right before it. Okay, visit in small groups, split larger parties into groups of 4 to 6. This is very, very important. If you have your scouting troops or you're the club, this kind of stuff, you want to spread it out so you don't have too much traffic or too much damage to one area, because you are going to damage the ground. If you walk on a spot several times, you walk in your garden 10 times backwards and forwards across the same line, you're going to damage it. There's going to be some traffic use there. So, and repackage food to minimize waste. So what they're saying there is that, okay, you get home, before you leave on the trip, you want to prepare all your food by repackaging it into different types of containers and stuff, so that you're less likely to bring more garbage with you. Okay, because a lot of people, they do. You end up bringing more garbage. What does it do? You put it in the fire. Some things don't burn, or it's toxic, and you don't want to do that. So you repackage it at home. You do all your preparation there. Also, it compacts your packing list a bit, so you have exactly what you need. You're not carrying all this extra packaging, this kind of stuff. So this is important. And use a map and compass to eliminate the use of rock cairns, flagging, or marking points. And that's something a lot of people, you call them ducks quite often. People will stack up rocks to show you a route or something like that. This is just, like I said, leave no trace. It's the idea you move through an area and you leave only footprints. You don't leave anything else. You don't leave garbage or anything else. So this is something that's important. And, places already have some kind of markings, this kind of stuff. We do public markings on trails, this kind of stuff. You don't need more than that, and you don't need to put more out there. Like, it's like if you want to go visit someone's house for a birthday, and what they do, they put balloons up along the whole route from a certain point, and then they leave it. They don't go out and collect up their garbage afterwards. So it's the same thing in the forest. Okay, so travel and camp on durable surfaces. Durable surfaces include establishing trails and campsites, rock, gravel, dry. There you go, just trails. Okay. Avoid getting off the trails when you're camping. A lot of switchbacks, you'll see trails going right down the middle where people don't want to do the switchbacks when they're going down a mountain. The switchbacks are there for several reasons. Number one, makes it a much more comfortable hike. Sure, you're doubling or tripling your distance that you're walking, but you know what? You're not walking straight up a mountain or straight down a mountain, okay? But you'll always see someone cutting through these switchbacks, and what that do? That causes erosion the next time rain comes, and it'll just wash it right out. So that's something else is very important, okay? Okay, and protect areas by camping at least 200 feet from lakes, streams. Okay, this is also quite obvious. You do want to have about 200 feet. This is roughly about 60 meters away from any kind of water source, and there's for several reasons. That number one is that you don't want to pollute the water source. It's going to be colder next to the water source also. That air tends to rise, this kind of stuff. And if you have a toilet like that, you want to have it even further away from your campsite. So if you have a water source here, your campsite is here, you want your toilets to be even further away. You don't want to contaminate that water. So that's also important. And also a lot of movement along a stream, along the sides of the stream, it damages the sides of the stream. Next thing you know, it's being washed out, this kind of stuff. And you don't want that to happen either. Okay. You want to do your hiking along trails, and you want to camp primarily in campsites. Okay. Sure, you might get to a point where the campsites are completely full. I suggest you, with any kind of proper planning, you've prepared and you know that there are campsites further along the trail. So move on to another campsite. Don't just stay there. Okay, these things happen, especially in the high season. That's why it's important to try maybe to camp in the low season, not too often the high season. Okay, and stay on your trails, because you alleviate a lot of the problems with erosion and this kind of stuff if you stay on the trail. And you'll see trails where there's like a mud puddle in the middle because the trail's not being maintained properly. And so people will walk around the mud puddle. So what it does, it enlarges the trail there, which causes other problems, okay? So, and then when you do camp out, disperse a little bit into the camping area. Don't all clump up all together, because that way the traffic that you're making, this kind of stuff doesn't do more, okay? Dispose of waste properly, okay? Whatever you bring in, you bring out, okay? And even when it comes to your human waste, okay? Sure, if there are porta potties there or some kind of a system there, use it. If there's not, and you have an area that's further enough away from the camp that you can use, you can dig a little trench there and deep enough so that when you do the toilet, you do your toilet stuff like that, you do it there. And something that we do in bushcraft is that we actually burn the toilet paper after so we have some matches there along with the toilet paper, and we burn the toilet paper. If not, put it in a plastic bag. Carry it back out with you. A lot of people might think, oh, that's gross. That's just the way it is. We don't want to, because it's everywhere. You see, I've always seen, and it's really crazy. I've just camping this summer, went to an area, I did a 10-day camp out, and behind every tree off the trail, not more than 3 or 4 meters, you'll see where someone has done their duty and they left the toilet paper there. And you women are the worst. I don't know why. Anyway. If you dig a cat hole like that, 6 to 8 inches deep and 200 feet away from a water source or away from your camp, you want to put it out there a little further out, okay? And I've already talked about that. If you bring in your own towelettes and paper products, so you're not going down to the creek and washing yourself in the creek. And do not use a toilet in the creek, this kind of stuff. People downstream, they're going to be using that water. And people upstream from you're going to be using the water, so be careful. And wash your clothes and your dishes, this kind of stuff, more than 200 feet from a water source, and try to use, if you use any kind of soaps, use soaps that are good for the environment, okay? So that's the first part of leave no trace, okay, on the first side of this card right here, okay? On the back side, okay, is leave what you find. That means if you go into an area and you see some really nice rocks out there, leave those rocks. Quite often in North America, you'll go to sites, really beautiful areas that are high traffic, a lot of camping, this kind of stuff, Bryce Canyon and other places, and people get out there and they find arrowheads. Leave the arrowheads there. Don't bring them home with you. These, like I said, leave what you find out there. Don't bring any animals home with you. Leave the plants out there. Sure, people go out there and they pick flowers, this kind of stuff. And the next group of people come in, they pick flowers. Next group, they come pick. Next thing you know, you don't have any more flowers there. So leave what you find is out there, and don't be picking up stuff like this right here, okay? and don't build any kind of structures or furniture or this kind of stuff that's going to be stayed out there permanently. And it's something I see quite often in bushcrafters on their videos. They go out and they build these permanent structures in the forest, this kind of stuff. Okay, if you build it, take it down, and then come back, and then you can stack those logs up against trees so that they're not under the water, and you can reuse them again later. That's good because you're not constantly cutting down trees. But the problem with these permanent structures out there is that it might be on public land, it could be on private land. If it's on your own land, do what you want to, okay? But just be careful, okay? And last thing is be careful when it comes to introducing native stuff like that. With a lot of people, they go hiking with their animals, this kind of stuff like that, and that's one thing. Clean up after your dog, even when you're out and about. But also be careful of bringing in any things that they're not native to the area. Could be plants, it could be animals that stay out there, and then they cause problems. It didn't take much for the gray squirrel in Europe to basically kill off all the red squirrels, which are native to here. The gray squirrel is native to North America. Minimize your campfire impact. First of all, don't use stones to circle your campfire. And if you do, take them away. The thing you got to be careful of, there's some stones out there, like sandstone, that'll blow up on you. So be careful. You don't want to do that. So if I make a spot, I'll clean off the first layer of soil a little bit. And I don't make fires next to trees because you can damage the roots of them. That's all the process of it also. And then once you've built that fire and you're using that fire, when you finish, you want to clean it up. Now, something you can do, which is really good for the environment, is once you put that fire out with a good bit of water and it's cooled down, you can throw out the ashes into the surrounding area. And of course, nature is going to use that as a fertilizer. So it's really good. But then afterwards, you need to clean up so as if no one ever was at that camp. Leave no trace. This is a constant, it's a constant reminder, okay? And don't make huge fires. Make small fires, okay? Do that. You don't need a huge bonfire just to cook a little meal or to have a nice little ambience. And when you burn your fire, let it burn down to where it's just ash. Basically, not a whole bunch of pieces of wood that are unburned, this kind of stuff. Because, like I said, that's you're leaving a trace when you're out there, okay? Respect the wildlife. This is pretty obvious right there. Okay, you observe the wildlife from a distance, but a lot of people tend to go into the woods and they're dressed like some kind of circus clowns, all these bright colors, this kind of stuff. Your birds are going to see this right here. They're going to avoid these areas. Also bright colors attract insects too, so be careful of that. But don't make a whole lot of noise. Don't go in there doing a lot of things that are going to cause the natural wildlife to want to not be in that area, okay? Never feed any of the animals, this kind of stuff. The thing is, one thing we have a problem is that there are lots of, every year birds migrate south to Africa, okay, or Southern Europe. The problem that we have is that people are now feeding birds all year round on their balconies, and a lot of these birds have now changed their migration habits and they don't migrate south. Well, the problems you have there is that affects the entire basis of the ecology. Actually, now you might not be feeding insects there, or you might not be feeding fish there, or other animals there that needed the base of that, the eggs or whatever, they were getting every year. That's not happening anymore. Okay, and along the trip also, there are animals that perish on those trips and perish going down. So there are whole groups of animals and insects and plants that were surviving off of that. Well, a lot of that's happening. And also they're staying up here during the winter, okay? So this is another thing. It's thrown them off their migration routes. They're not migrating south anymore and then migrating back north to have their chicks, this kind of stuff at the end of the year. So it's affecting everything. So people making mistakes by feeding all these animals, and now we sort of have to. If not, they're going to freeze to death up here, okay? Protect. Also, another thing is, when you're in the forest, keep your food, this kind of stuff. Protect the wildlife from getting into your food, this kind of stuff also. So you want to hang what we call bear bags or whatever, or protective plastic boxes or whatever. Keep your food in those things to keep the wildlife from getting into it, because the next thing you know, you have foxes visiting in there, especially to the campsite, and everybody's using it all the time, the wildlife starts depending on that. And that attracts bears, that attracts everything else. And that's the last thing you want in your camp is a bear, okay? And avoid wildlife during sensitive times. You know, when it's seasonal, and this is a time of period when the wildlife are reproducing, or when they're mating season, or they're moving to a certain area, a certain time of year, you want to be more hidden if you're observing them. And you don't want to be making a lot of racket and doing things that are going to cause them not to reproduce or mate or move to an area. So we got to be careful when we're in nature because it affects everything around us. So that's another point of leave no trace. And the last point I want to make here is be considerate to other visitors. That's pretty obvious, okay? You want to be careful when it comes, you know, less noise, less color, you know, less obvious that you're there, you know. Be nice and courteous to other people, and yield to other people on the trail. You know, if you're moving very slow on the trail, you know, and you got somebody speeding by you, get out of the way. Don't try to block them or you know, don't treat people the way nature the way you treat them on the highway, which is what we shouldn't be treating people either, you know. And stop to the downhill side of the trail when encountering people coming up, okay? Take breaks, camp away from trails and other visitors, and let nature's sounds prevail. Avoid loud voices and noises. So these are the principles of leave no trace. You can go to the website, you can find these. I suggest if you can get these little cards, get them, pass them out to everybody in the family so they all know, or to your make sure everybody understands these things. And if you see somebody breaking these rules, let them know. You don't have to be a dick about it, but let them know, you know. And if you have to be a dick about it, well, there you go. Anyway, so you can go to our website, www.lnt.org, and you can get one of these cards, you can get more information, and I highly suggest it because we want nature to last forever. And believe me, nature's going to last forever because we're the ones that are going to fall, okay? But we want to protect it as much as possible so that we, too, can enjoy it the following year and the next time we're out there. Anyway, listen, I want to thank you for coming to the channel again. I hope you're all having a great day. And remember, next time you're out and about, leave no trace. Goodbye.